Hi, welcome to Rusted Recreation. My name's Dylan Peterson. This is the first episode of our new show. Um, I've never done anything on YouTube before. Um, I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're going to figure this out together. I went to college, so I learned how to run a business. Trying to start my shop. In the meantime, when I'm not working on customers' cars, we're going to be filming my projects. The 95 Blazer over here is, one of my, it is my first major fabrication, modification of a vehicle. Um, it has solid axles from a 77 Cherokee Chief. Um, I made my own adapter plate, mounted transfer case upside down the feed the passenger side drop on the Jeep axles. I've done a lot of questionable things. Some of the stuff we're going to go through and fix. Yeah, it was a running and driving project until the spider injectors decided to fill the crankcase full of gasoline. So here we are 15 years later, um, starting a YouTube channel. And this is going to be the first project on the YouTube channel since this was my first project ever. Peterson's 4-wheel and off-road is what inspired this Blazer build. The Blazer, we're putting the small block in the engine bay here. So 95 Blazer, if you don't know, was the smallest that the S-Trucks ever got. It's 3 inches narrower than 95, 2 inches narrower than 94, if I remember right. Look under here, we got the differentials, the leaf springs, gearbox, all the front suspension is from the 74 Cherokee Chief. I built the front cross member out of the double 2-inch 1/4-inch wall tube, thinking that having that double beam in the middle there gave me more rigid. This was all, a budget build that the time was the biggest part of that build. So it's like budget build, getting back to like early hot rodders that we didn't have the stuff you needed, you made it. It's going to be more than just me working on things. That once we get them fixed, that we're going to go play with them. That's the adventure part. Alright, we're going to continue getting stuff out of the way here and take this whole bracket that holds this AC compressor and the tensioner in place. Mostly because while trying to remove the AC, that bolt runs into that pulley. I don't know why the engineer can't give you like an extra 1/4 inch there, but that's what we're dealing with, so we're just going to take this whole bracket off. Wrong size. That wasn't too bad. It opens up a lot more real estate for you to work. I mentioned I have ADD. I guess ADHD, whatever you want to call it. It makes life interesting sometimes. You lose things quicker than the average person does. You can never move and lose things. It's got a nice little ring to it. I love it when they throw different size bolts at you. Ooh, yeah. It's a bit as easy, everybody be doing it, right? Now I got an adjustable bolt rounder out here. Here it's the next day. Had to rent a pulley puller from a local parts store. There's the part number for it. They get the power steering pump pulley off. Love how you have to have a special tool for everything. But anyways, so we're going to go and continue getting this bracket loose, get the power steering pump out of our way. and move on from there. Oh, here we go. A little snafu, but we got her off there now. Pumps free. Now we got all that free. We got easy access to the engine mounts. Oil cooler lines need to get that out of the way. And I'll crawl underneath, start working on the bell housing bolts and torque converter bolts and all. It's Saturday morning. Started this Thursday. You know, work full-time job, construction, so I'm getting like a couple hours a night in. Thursday, Friday night. I'm about 5 hours deep into this thing now. Got most of the front of the motor torn off. Got bell housing bolts. I'm down to 2 bell housing bolts left, the 2 lower ones. So I need to support the motor, lower the transmission. My adapter kit makes it a little difficult to separate the transfer case from the transmission while it's in the vehicle. So it's going to be a little bit of a chore getting it out, but hopefully that's out in the next hour or two, and we'll start pulling this motor out, which is basically down to pull the wiring harness, main engine computer harness, and you know, whatever little wires. I guess fuel lines are still hooked up, heater core lines are still hooked up. So we still got a little bit of stuff to take off to get the motor completely free. And we'll hook the engine hoist up and figure out what I missed. I don't know, being the cameraman, the host, a little bit difficult sometimes. Like, you gotta remember to turn the camera on, have it pointed at what you're doing. You guys that are currently on YouTube, make it look a little easier than what it might actually be. But we're still plowing forward with it. I'm not going to give up just because it's difficult. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? Stick the head down in the oil pan, that's always a good idea. Alright, that's the last of the bolts. Let's see if I can get this thing wiggled back and out of here. I'm gonna have to go get my son. And I don't think he wants to be on camera, so I'm probably gonna have to turn the camera off for a little bit. You know, I just turned it on, so you can watch me take one bolt out, but here we go. We'll see what editing brings. Alrighty, it's out. It come down a little harder than I like, which really highlights the importance of having a proper transmission jack instead of the trusty old floor jack. But now that you can get a good idea of the madness that I created to mount this transfer case to a passenger side position, that this is redneck ingenuity, mad scientist work, whatever you want to call it, is the basic hot rodder mentality from the 30s, and that they didn't have the stuff they needed, or they couldn't afford the stuff they needed, so they made the stuff they needed. And that's kind of where I fell into that. I'm working on an oddball thing, wanting to do oddball stuff, and the parts that are available were well out of my price range 15 years ago, and that that's what I came up with, and it was working pretty good. Had to run low range on the transfer case because the engine didn't have enough power. The Dana 44s had a higher gear ratio than what the Blazer had from the factory, and then it's also on a taller tire than what the Blazer had from a factory. So it was really struggling with high range. I imagine this 350 that we're getting ready to put in there will probably help with some of that. Eventually it'll get re-geared, and I'm probably going to replace that rear axle because both axles came out of a quadra-track Jeep that the rear differential is offset to the passenger side. Puts the U-joints in a little bit of a bind, but they seem to be working so far. And then the front drive shaft on these Blazers, because of the IFS, was never really intended to articulate with the front axle. But once again, it's working. The thing that stopped this whole program dead in its tracks was the GM's faulty spider injector, what were you thinking setup on these engines. And so that was the Achilles heel of this project. And I've learned a lot more since I built this. When I built this, I was going off information that I read out of Peterson's 4-Wheel and Off-Road, and figured that I could do that. There's all self-engineered, as being an odd year thing, that there was no kits for it. So and I probably couldn't afford one if there was a kit for it. So I built it. And this is the madness I came up with. And here we are 15 years later, and we're going to fix the madness. Some of it was just not knowing any better. Some of it was the ADD getting at the end of the project and just wanting to go. So there were some corners cut that shouldn't have been cut. But we're going to fix them all now. And, yeah. So we're going to get started on this motor next. We'll get back to you when I got more progress. Okay, we got all the engine mount bolts loose. I think the wiring's all loose and the plumbing's all loose. Now we find out what I forgot. Yep. Well, there's the first thing we forgot was heater hoses. We'll get on that. Okay, we got the heater hoses off. Let's see what else we forgot. Get the pump off the motor. Sit down here. Cooler lines are clear. Yeah, motor mounts just fell apart. Oh, they're doing it slow. Well, y'all probably don't even get a good view of what's going on over here yet. You got wiring harness from here back into here. I'm gonna have to get all that pulled out of there. Then the motor should come on out. It said engine hoist, something for testing tensile strength is stuff you forgot. Alright, fuel lines are in here as well. Alrighty, we got her on the run now. Some throttle cables, cruise control cable had to be unhooked still. Had a couple of wiring harnesses back here that still needed to be unplugged. Had the vacuum booster, and then I had some relay stuff over on this side. Let's see if she's going to come out of there now. Looks like I got more wiring harness underneath and a couple of fuel lines yet. Oh, we're slowly getting there though, folks. Cameraman's fun, getting set up all the shots, stop what you're doing in the middle of things, make sure everybody gets a good view of the disaster unfolding in front of them. Oh, we got fuel lines cut. I think that is the last of what was holding this old motor in here, but we'll find out. Exhaust dragging the frame rails a little bit. Getting closer. Oh. Now let's clear force support. It looks like most everything in the back is clearing. Oh, still something hanging there. No wires. Oh, where's this cut off? We all could say, hey, that's caught on your wire. Yeah, we got it. How long this thing's been sitting. How brittle all that stuff is. Just falling apart there in your hands. That's what happens when you neglect your vehicles. Yeah, 15-year-old project, it goes south a little bit, so you just abandon everything. Don't get it right, just get it running. And that's where we're at. I was living that philosophy long before I ever knew that other people were as big a hacks as I was. They're professional hacks where I'm just an amateur hack. I think we're free. Alright, then fuel lines are the only thing that's really dragging. Oh, and oil cooler lines. That old girl hasn't seen the light of day in 15 years. Bit of a struggle getting her out. At least, I got a shop. That 15 years ago when I built this rig, I was under a shade tree. And you get kind of a better look at some of the debauchery that went on in my early fabrication days. We're gonna fix all this. I hope you all stick around for the ride. It's been a little bit different filming myself doing this. I hope you enjoyed this first episode. There'll be more to come.